This is a demonstration to illustrate how to add a glossary item and also how to refer to a glossary item inside a LWT course. First of all, log into one of your classes, and if you need to add a new glossary item, you have to add it to our shared resources here, LWT shared resources. So click on that class and go to LWT shared glossary. And since I have already defined a few glossary items, let's go ahead and just add a new one. We can add, well, let's say, we not right click. Scroll bar. Okay, scroll bar is a new entry. So we want to, oh, I did it wrong. I have to click add a new entry first. And then we use scroll bar here. I'm not sure whether we should use this convention, but the convention I have been using is unless the word is special, I use all lowercase. So unless it is a name or a place or something like that, I just use all lowercase for the word. And I do use a space in between. That may not work too well actually with scroll bar. So I'll just combine the two words into one first. Because my script doesn't pick up anything that has a space in between. Maybe it does. Well, we can give it a try. Okay, so we'll put a space bar in between, and then you can just type the definition of that word. Now, when you use the definition, when you define the definition of this word, it may be best if you do not use a whole lot of formatting, because the pop-up text box has a lot of restrictions. So a lot of the fancy formatting would not show up correctly. So it's best really just use Word in this case and not include pictures or special formatting. So I'll just say a scroll bar is a component in a window that lets a user pan the screen. A vertical scroll bar allows vertical panning, while a horizontal scroll bar allows horizontal panning. A thumb in a scroll bar is a portion that can be dragged to control the panning. Now, obviously, I have to explain what is a thumb and what is, the drag. What is to drag the thumb? But since this is just an example, I'll leave it at that for now. Save changes. And make sure the entry is added to the glossary at this point. Now let's go to a class and go to a particular resource HTML document to try to include this. And I have just the right place to put it, because when I talk about starting from the taskbar, which is actually a lot more than just starting from the taskbar, I mentioned that. So I'll go ahead and update the resources, and I'm using the standalone editor so that I can see the entire surface. I see the entire document. There's one part here that talks about the scroll bar, which is right here. So I will highlight the word that I want to use to link to the glossary item. Highlight the whole thing, and I would typically use the same words as the definition, or as the words to be defined, already defined in the glossary. And click the anchor symbol to create an anchor out of the selected text. And here's the part that is important. We have to follow the convention. And the convention is to use underscore def, all lowercase, underscore, and then followed by the name of the word that we're trying to define. So here's the tricky part, to see whether a space can be used. So we'll say anchor name is underscore def scroll space bar in this case. Click OK, and that's it. Now if you want to add a list of words used in this particular document, we also have to include terms. So let me delete this first so I can show you exactly how to do this from scratch. So what you do is you just say terms. Now this part is not important. You can actually say terminology, terms, or whatever you want to use. It is also good to kind of format it using one of the header format, either header 2 or heading 2 or heading 3. Doesn't matter which one you pick. And then you select the text, and this time you also need to use an anchor, and the name of the anchor is underscore terms underscore, all lowercase, and then you click OK. So at this point the document is all ready. I have to first minimize the editor and then save the document. So here we save and display the document. Now I have to go to the website to run a script first, and this is something that I need to change so that the script is run automatically, but I don't know exactly how often we have to run the script. To run the script manually, this is what I need to do, which is definitely not important to the rest of us. It's just something that I have to do, and you can see that it doesn't take that much time to run the script. It looks like it picked up scroll bar just fine. So I think it successfully picked up the scroll bar, even though there's a space in the name of the anchor. We'll see. Let's go back to Moodle first, and I will use refresh to refresh the page. Don't use update this resource. Well, I guess that'll work too, but this time let's go see if the scroll bar is out highlighted right here. This is the scroll bar that we highlighted and added anchor, and then we put a mouse over that, and you can see that the hover text is working just fine. We click it, it brings us all the way to the last portion of the screen, which defines the terms. And since I also have another term defined here, which is close, that's why there are two terms here. If you click scroll bar, it brings you back all the way to the first mentioning of this word. In other words, you can have multiple mentioning or multiple anchors, but I think it brings you to the first one. I'm not 100% sure about that, because our agreement was there should only be one link to the term definition. And that concludes the whole thing. So let me just summarize what we need to do, and I'll go ahead and go back to the editor to do this one more time. Okay, so we go into the editor, we find the word that we want to create an anchor out of. Okay, so let's say, well, I can just repeat the exercise here. So what you do is you highlight the word that you want to create an anchor out of, and then go to the anchor tool, and then create an anchor, and make sure the name is underscore lowercase def underscore, and then followed by the word that you want to look up from the glossary, and that will take care of this entry. And then at the end of your page of your document, you also want to define the terms, and you just need to type terms, change the style to header 2 or header 3 or header 1, depending on how big you want the header to appear. And make sure that you also select the text, anchor that using the anchor tool, and this time use the name underscore terms terms underscore, again all lowercase, to mark that this is not just regular text, it is an anchor, so that we know where to put all the definitions of terms within this single document. And so that's one thing. And there's one more thing that I need to just remind everyone, is how to define the glossary. So that part you have to go to LWT shared resources and go to LWT shared glossary, and this is where we want to define all the glossary item. If you find an item that is already defined, you cannot tell right away who did it. I guess you can, because let me see if I can find out easily whether who wrote this part. Nope, it doesn't work that way. You can browse by author, if you browse by author, you can definitely tell that all of these entries are created by me. So that may be a good idea, is to contact that person that you're changing the glossary item, just so that the other person knows that the definition of the terms will be changed. And I think that should be it. That should conclude the illustration of how to add an entry to the glossary, and also how to include links to the definition of terms within a document, within an HTML document. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Oh, here's one more thing. If you forget, for any reason, how to create, those anchors, because the special convention is not exactly intuitive. This is where you can find it. If you go to LWT shared, go to conventions, which is in the second topic at this time. It defines all the common conventions that we have already discussed, and this is the description of the word to be defined, and this is the anchor that you need to use to define the section that will automatically be filled with term definitions. I hope this is sufficient, and let me know if you have any questions. I know this is not professionally produced, but I think it served the purpose already. Alright, well, have fun with the glossary stuff, and I'll see you guys on next Tuesday.